Hello and welcome to Investment Trends. Now this week we focus on the importance of small and medium enterprises, SMEs, in the economy. The importance of SMEs cannot be overemphasized. This is because most developed countries enjoying a growing and booming economy attribute most of their achievements to a flourishing SME sector. In addition, empirical studies have shown that SMEs contribute over 55% of gross domestic product, GDP, and over 65% of total employment in high-income countries. However, here are the Zambian SMEs performing here. How are the Zambian SMEs performing and what is being done to improve their contribution to the economy are some of the issues we will be talking about on the program today. I'm privileged to be joined by Mr. Mukula Makasa, who is the Director Enterprise Development at the Zambia Development Agency. And of course, we will be taking a little break just to show you some of the activities that these people are into. But quickly introducing my guest, Mr. Makasa. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, madam?
Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you. How is ZNBC?
ZNBC is good, thank you.
Good.
Today we're focusing on SMEs, and I know that a lot of young people are getting to think outside the box and trying out new things. I know that we've spoken on this platform about the young people who are just along Alikinkata Road who are doing amazing things, creating chairs, putting together gates and putting together different items. But in terms of just looking at the landscape and the environment for the SMEs, is it ripe enough? Is it an environment that is ready for the kind of people that are coming up?
Well, the environment is very viable and sustainable. You see, the government since 1991 has put in place a number of structural reforms to liberalize the economy and to and also to create that enabling environment for businesses to operate in the country. So the environment is favorable, but I think the biggest challenge that is there right now is that most of our micro, small and medium enterprises prefer to be informal because that way they stay away from a number of processes or procedures which invariably they perceive to be a stumbling block to their growth, particularly, paying tax and, queuing up to filing returns and so forth.
Right, and that being a lot of money that can be used in taking the nation forward.
Exactly. But I think our biggest preoccupation right now is to convince or to persuade the private sector, including the MSMEs, to formalize their businesses. Because for your information, Chile, 80% of the private sector or the business community is informal in this country, approximately, according to some study that was commissioned by the Private Sector Development Reform Program, which is under Cabinet Office, indicated or captured that kind of statistics. And so the preoccupation of the Zambia Development Agency and the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry is to persuade the private sector to formalize, including the MSMEs, because that's where the real growth opportunities are in the formal sector.
Right. So am I getting you right when you say most of them are not formalized? So this is just people who start something, they start making something, they get some money, they put it back into the business, or they, sort of pay their bills and it doesn't go anywhere.
Exactly.
Then how then are they able to access finance? How then are they able to even get to places like the multi-facility economic zones? What are you as ZDA doing to push that agenda forward?
You see, when you're informal, no formal business financing institution, for instance, can extend its lines of credit. They want you formalized. They want you to be able to even structure, a bankable document. But if you're informal, even if you come up with a bankable document, it will be opaque. It cannot be accepted.
Right.
So what we are actually doing, once we help them get formalized, we also build their capacity. And then, as the Zambia Development Agency, our preoccupation, of course, our priority is to build bridges and to build blocks. bridges that we build is to enable them to cross over.
Okay.
So that they can tap into the former big business opportunities, such as accessing, markets. And these markets both includes linkages, which are backward and forward, business linkages, where they can, get big business opportunities, in order to grow their sales or boost their business growth and so forth. And then the other thing that we also do is we facilitate access to business finance formally. We have, for instance, some business financing institutions, organizations that we're working with. For instance, we have an agreement with ABC. We're just about to sign another agreement with NatSave, National Savings and Credit Bank. We have an agreement with Madison Finance. We also have an agreement with Better Finance Company. And so all these institutions we have agreements with. If they get registered, they formalize their business and they also register with the Zambia Development Agency, we can hold them by the hand and introduce them to these business financing institutions. And then we can also help them negotiate favorable terms, in order to enable them access that very vital capital, which is essential and fundamental for growth of these businesses. So that's what we're doing as ZDA and the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry and the government at large.
All right.
Yeah.
So formalization of the business is the way to go for them to be able to have access to finance. Let's talk about job creation and just adding, a little bit to the economy of this country. Do you think that they're doing that? Are they helping in that area, at least in creating jobs for the young people in this country?
The SMEs. Well, they are. We've actually witnessed some growth trends within the MSME sector in terms of job creation and wealth, although it has not yet met our expectations.
Okay.
We have huge expectations, and in fact we, as a government and the Zambia Development Agency in particular, we are pinning our hopes on the growth of the MSME sector to create the 1 million jobs that we are targeting. But what that, the implications of that is that would have to, for instance, invest very heavily in capacity building, because they need to have the requisite entrepreneurship skills, they need to have the business management skills, they also need to have the technical skills in order to have quality products, goods and services. But then there's also another major strategic intervention that we are actually embarking on right now. We're already doing it. It's business incubation. Right. Currently at the ZDA, we're discharging virtual business incubation. What this means is a formalized enterprise can walk in, and then we'll support them. For instance, we'll hold them by the hand and help them develop a business idea and put that idea on paper, transpose it on paper, and then expand it and operationalize it, and then facilitate the necessary linkages, including the business linkages, including the financing linkages, and even trade support, exposing them to even all kinds of markets, which includes the domestic markets and even international markets, which includes the regional and foreign, overseas as well. All right.
So you're dealing directly with these SMEs, and you've talked about the business incubators that you have going on. What are some of the challenges that they have, that they bring out to you when they get into the system that you've put in place to help them find markets and just be able to get established? What challenges do you think they go through, and what kind of challenges have they actually brought to you, to ZDA?
Well, one of the biggest challenges that they have, first and foremost, is access to business infrastructure. It's very fundamental. I like the example you gave. You talked about some SMEs operating along Ali Kinkata, those that are in light engineering. Right. They manufacture building materials, including doors, door gates, frames, gates and so forth, tank stands and so forth. For instance, one of the major concerns that some of those SMEs may have is access to non-stop, electricity, unlimited access to energy. It's very fundamental. Once there's a load shedding, business comes to a standstill. There are some productivity goes down.
Yeah.
And if they were formalized, it means, the government also loses revenue in terms of tax. There's also revenue lost in terms of wealth creation, even for the employees and so forth. Those are some of the constraints. Another major constraint is access to market. Some of them, you can see they've manufactured those building materials, and then they just display them along the road, waiting for people to come and buy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's huge competition even from other established big or rather large enterprises which they have to compete with.
Right.
And so these are some of the challenges, access to markets, and then access to affordable capital. Most of them, because they are informal, they end up borrowing from informal money lenders, and it's very costly. So it effectively pushes up the cost of their productivity or the cost of their goods, and so then they become uncompetitive. So one of the major priorities or part of our mandate as the ZDA is to ensure that business enterprises become competitive on the marketplace. And once they become competitive, they'll be able to sell. And once they sell, they'll be able to at least remit some tax in order to grow the country, like the way you put it, And so this is fundamental for us as the ZDA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. When we talk about SMEs, we're seeing this all over the country. It's not just in Lusaka where this is happening.
Exactly.
You go into various cities and towns, districts, you find young people, have created artifacts, chairs and gates, like you said. But when we break it down, what kind of particular industries are they most common in? I know that, you have those in manufacturing, but when you break it down at ZDA and you try to sort of put them in segments, which kind of industries are they in, and how much of them do we have in various industries?
Well, firstly, Chile, the involvement or participation of MSMEs in specific sectors is market-driven, demand-driven.
Okay.
And what we've observed, even when you read the industrialization and job creation strategy, which was launched by Cabinet, I think, in 2012, it does clearly indicate that the demand of the leading sectors where there is huge potential and high participation of MSMEs is largely in agriculture, and there's a lot of jobs being created in there, and the agro-processing itself, and then you've also got manufacturing, particularly light manufacturing.
Okay.
And then you've also got tourism. And then there's also, when you come to look at it, even the service industry. You've got women who are involved, for instance, in salons, all kinds of services, So these are, the sectors where you find a lot of growth and potential. Even construction, because these are labor-intensive sectors, because if you notice, if you're building a road or a house, there's huge demand for labor. And then one of the other things that I can also tell you is that when you, in fact, drive around, or if you went to Soweto, you'll notice that there are a lot of, for instance, women and youth involved in the agricultural sector. But now what we are promoting as an agency is value addition, because that's where the wealth creation will come from. That's where the wealth creation will come from. And the good thing about agriculture and food processing in particular, it's not rocket science. Anyone can do it, including yourself, Chile, you can do it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Just a quick reminder to our viewers, you're watching Investment Trends. Now, we know that among the things that ZDA does is facilitate business linkages for SMEs, among others. And so we went into one of the supermarkets and where ZDA is implementing a market linkage. And this is what we found out.
For produce, which is fruit and veg, we have a vendor that we've elected to actually do the buying for us. What he does is he goes round to other farms to see what we need to put on our shelves. He's sitting with plus minus 300 small-scale farmers that he gets produce from. So he's the one that goes around and takes our produce to bring it. So I would say 80% of the things that you see on fruit and veg in Pick n Pay are actually local. They are faring quite good, but it's just the consistency. So his job as a vendor is mainly to go and grade the produce according to the specs that we need to put on our shelves. So he will take from, for example, farmer X for a period, and when he sees his produce starts getting down, he switches off to another farmer. Yeah, he will not get from one farmer consistently, and I think that is what we are lacking. Otherwise, we jump from farm to farm just to try and make sure that we have the same consistent on shelf. With Roseblooms, our farm, I think what they've done is they've engaged with the local farmers and they've told them what exactly it is that they're looking for. So they have learned from them on what they should produce. So they know exactly what kind of spec they need, for example, for a leafy veg, for a rep, for a chihuahua, what type of a veg that they would want to see in the stores. It's the same for fruits, it's the same for the other vegetables, your carrots, your add-on packs. So what we do as Pick n Pay is actually educate through Roseblooms the local farmers on what it is that they need to get to. And I think from my point of view, it's agriculture is also becoming a bit more mechanized in terms of people are not even just switching on to seasons. It's overflowing even through different type of seasons. So people must find ways and means of growing that product, even if it's not the season, but they must make sure that they grow it in the out of season, but it still matches the product that's in season. By so mentioning, for example, we have farmers that I've heard that are actually growing onion in the rainy season, and it comes out on a good spec, which was impossible in the past. But now with people learning on how the mechanics around it are, they are trying to get their produce to that standard.
That was just something to give you an idea of what we're talking about today on the program. Now, ZDA is making sure that it creates linkages for the different people, SMEs who are out there and trying to find markets, and ZDA makes sure that this happens. Mr. Makasa, very interesting to know that those who are growing vegetables, carrots, green paper can have access to the supermarkets that are coming from outside the country and be able to sell their fresh produce.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Exactly. I mean, you see, the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
And these opportunities are actually waiting for anyone out there, including yourself, Chile. You can supply a wide range of vegetables, but the key thing is the quality and consistency. Yeah. And so what the ZDA helps is we help negotiate for the SMEs, and we also build their capacity and also ensure that they become consistent in the supply. And we do that by, for instance, facilitating them to have access to the capital that would ensure that there's a smooth flow of production and supply to the market. Yeah.
All right. Is there any particular SME that you can point out to say that this is our success story as ZDA? We helped this particular SME start from nothing. You mentored them, they went into your business incubation program, and now they're thriving, they're doing good and producing profits. Is there one that you can pinpoint?
Yes, there's a young man, he's manufacturing some scouring powder.
Okay.
And right now you can find it in Pick n Pay, and it's competing punch for punch with Vim and Ajax. He's a local boy, and I think God willing, in the next 2-3 years, that will be the next silver bullet on the marketplace, just like the way Boom has performed. So that product, watch this space.
It's coming really good.
It's coming really good, and in fact, the next trade mission that we were likely to have into the Congo, we're taking that one with us.
Okay.
Another example is there's another young man. He manufactures footwear, leatherwear, shoes. I'm pleased to inform you that he's been approached by one of the foreign supermarket chain called Budget Stores to be supplying them with 500 pairs of shoes per month. And that is very encouraging and promising. There's also discussions for him to start designing on behalf of a foreign label. And that's very exciting. And that's all happening at the ZDA.
Right. So this is obviously going in line with government's encouragement to business owners and investors in diversifying and looking outside the traditional exports. This is a good thing for you.
Exactly. I mean, this is a contribution towards enhancing the export drive or the non-traditional exports, like you're putting it. But most importantly, this is where generation of the much needed foreign exchange will come from. You know, it's our own people, the MSMEs, and these will be the next generation of, you know, the multinationals that will come out of Zambia. I mean, look at Trade Kings started very small. Now they're massive, they're big. I'm told they've gone into Tanzania, they're about to go into Zimbabwe, they're in South Africa. You know, they're doing fine. And we need at least in every province 10 Trade Kings for this economy, you know, to be galvanized, you know, to gain that, you know, momentum. You know, we need some Zambiefs, 10 Zambiefs in each province. We need some, you know, 10 DK enterprises. Right. You know, the guys that do the Thirst brand.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Magasa, as much as, you know, we want the SMEs to thrive, to grow, and to be able to compete with the larger, you know, enterprises. Issues of standard, issues of quality also come in. And that's what most people, members of the public, say, that I cannot buy something made in this country because the standards are poor, the quality is poor, the packaging is not something to talk about. How are you also encouraging them to have, you know, brands that stand out, standards that are good, quality that is exceptional, and competing favorably with international brands?
Well, look, I mean, I appreciate and I know that, you know, the Zambian demands very high standard products, and we're working round the clock to ensure that our MSMEs are churning out quality products. So we're working very closely with ZABS, the Zambia Bureau of Standards. Okay. So all our MSMEs, the ones that we are incubating, we take them through ZABS to ensure that their products meet the market standards. That's number one. Number two, we're also making sure that even the ones that we're exposing to regional and international markets, they're also going through the mill. Because if a shoddy Zambian product goes out on the market, particularly outside the country, the foreign markets, export, it reflects very negatively on the country. But on the other hand, what we are also doing is we're also trying to make sure that we create a mindset transformation in all our entrepreneurs to make sure that, look, it's not just about churning out any product, but the product will reflect your image. Right. You know, so we are encouraging. Actually, we're promoting branding, labeling, you know, and so the standardization itself of the products, you know. So we work on all those, and it's part of the product development process, which is under our incubation, the virtual incubation program. All right.
As we wind up, Mr. Makasa, I know that ZDA signed an MOU with Nyamuka Zambia, business plan competition. What is your word to SMEs out there who would like to take part in this competition? What is it that they should look out for in terms of just making sure that they have a solid plan and it's something that can go far?
Well, a business plan or a business, plan is largely driven by the idea. As an entrepreneur, you have to dream big, but you also have to act big. But the idea is to put your dreams on paper. And that needs to be really choreographed. But you know, it's about your innovation, your ingenuity. So I am encouraging all MSMEs to go to our information resource center in town And that's where there are even computers there that will help you craft your business plan, your proposal, and will help you as ZDA. We'll hold you by the hand and take you through the whole process and make sure you get to the finishing line.
All right. Well, Mr. Magasa, thank you so much for coming through to the program. I'm sure that the young people out there, those who want to get into SME, become an SME and just be able to grow and contribute to the growth of this country, are listening and have taken 1 or 2 pointers. Thank you so much.
Most welcome.
All right, this is where we wrap up the show. Thank you very much for watching. Join us next time with another very interesting topic. This has been Investment Trends. Bye-bye.